welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping right into a really interesting legal fight down in Florida.
Yeah, it's definitely heating up.
We've been looking at reports from AP, Yahoo News, and some legal takes from Law and Crime. It seems to be a head-to-head between Florida and the federal government over immigration, specifically this law, SB 4C.
That's the word.
Our goal here is to unpack what's really going on and what the fallout might be.
Well, the thing that jumps out right away is Florida's Attorney General James Uthmeier. He's essentially defying a federal judge's order.
Okay, hold on. Defying? How so?
So Judge Kathleen Williams, she issued an injunction, basically told Florida, you can't enforce SB 4C right now. And that law, it makes it a state crime to enter Florida if you don't have federal authorization.
Right. A pretty significant state law stepping into federal territory.
Exactly. But despite that injunction, Uthmeier has signaled pretty clearly that they plan to enforce it anyway.
Wow. Okay, so federal judge says stop. State's top lawyer says maybe not. That sounds like a direct challenge.
It absolutely is. It sets up a major legal confrontation.
So what's the fundamental argument here? What's the core issue they're fighting over?
At its heart, it's about who controls immigration enforcement. Is it the federal government, as it traditionally has been, or can states play a bigger role?
The age-old federal versus state power question.
Pretty much. Florida, or Uthmeier at least, is arguing they have a constitutional duty to act, especially if they think federal enforcement isn't, up to snuff.
So they're framing it as fulfilling their state duties.
Right. But critics see it as undermining federal supremacy, the principle that federal law usually wins when there's a conflict with state law.
I see. And this feels familiar somehow. Haven't we seen similar situations maybe in Texas? Our sources mentioned that.
You're right. Texas has definitely pushed the envelope with its own state-level immigration laws, and predictably, they've run into legal challenges from the federal government, too.
So Florida isn't acting in a vacuum here? It's part of maybe a broader pattern?
Seems that way. It points to this larger trend, especially in border states or states heavily impacted by immigration, trying to assert more control. They're testing the legal boundaries, seeing how far they can go.
Okay, so with Uthmeier signaling defiance against a federal court order.
Yeah.
What happens next? This can't just hang there.
No, it certainly can't. The immediate next step is a court hearing. Judge Williams has scheduled one for May 29th.
And what's on the agenda for that hearing?
The judge is going to consider sanctions against Attorney General Uthmeier.
Sanctions like fines.
Could be fines, could be other judicial actions. It's essentially the court responding to what it might see as contempt, disregarding its injunction.
This sounds serious. The outcome of that hearing and the overall case about SB 4C feels like it could have big consequences.
Absolutely. It's not just about Florida. How this plays out could really influence the balance of power between states and the federal government on immigration nationwide.
So the main takeaway here seems to be, this is more than just one state law. It's a major test of who controls immigration policy in the U.S.
That's a good way to put it. It's a power struggle with potentially far-reaching effects.
That leaves you wondering, right?
Definitely. You have to ask, what if more states decide to go down this path? If they start creating their own immigration enforcement systems?
Yeah, what would that even look like? Would it be, effective? Or just a chaotic mess of different rules state by state?
Would it be fair, consistent? These are the big questions that this Florida situation really brings to the forefront. Something to keep an eye on for sure.